Imagine you are standing in a large room with a high ceiling, and in the middle of that room sits a giant complicated shape that you have never seen before. You walk to the left side and you see a flat square. You are certain it is a square. Your friend walks to the right side and shouts that you are wrong because they see a tall smooth cylinder. You both start to argue because you both know you are telling the truth. You both have eyes and you both can see clearly, so how can the other person be so blind? This is the state of our world today. We are constantly shouting at each other from different sides of the same room. We look at a topic like money or how we run our countries and we see one face of the shape while ignoring the rest. We have become very good at picking a side and staying there as if our lives depended on it. We use words like capitalism or socialism like they are weapons meant to end a conversation rather than start one. We think that if we win the argument, we win the world. But what if the truth is much bigger than any one of us can see alone? What if the square and the cylinder are both real parts of a shape that is actually much deeper and more interesting? We are living in a time where we are told we have to choose between red or blue, between being woke or being anti-woke, as if those are the only two flavors available. This way of thinking makes our world feel very flat. It makes us feel like we are trapped on a horizontal line moving back and forth but never moving up. We are going to explore why your perspective is almost certainly true but also very incomplete. We will look at how to stop fighting over who is right and start looking for the missing pieces of the puzzle that the person across from you is holding. We are going to learn how to move from common ground, which is often just a boring compromise, to higher ground, which is where we finally see the world in 3 dimensions. On the surface, we believe that there is a winner and a loser in every debate. The surface concept here is that if I am right, you must be wrong. We see this when people talk about capitalism. One person sees a system that has lifted billions of people out of poverty and gave us the internet and life-saving medicine. They see a hero. Another person looks at the same system and sees a monster that destroys the planet and makes a few people very rich while others struggle to eat. Both of these views are visible on the surface of our daily lives. We see the innovation and we see the pollution. We see the wealth and we see the inequality. On the surface, we think the goal is to grow the pie as large as possible. But the other side asks what the point of a giant pie is if only a few people get to taste it. We assume that we have to pick one of these stories and stick to it. We treat our political labels like a box we have to live inside. This surface level of thinking keeps us in a state of constant outrage. It makes us feel like every argument is a battle for survival. We think that by winning the debate we are protecting the truth, but on the surface we are just making the world more divided and angry. Behind this surface conflict lies a hidden assumption that one single metric can measure the success of an entire species. We often assume that if the stock market is up, everything is fine, or if a certain law is passed, justice is served. This hidden assumption suggests that reality is simple enough to fit into a headline or a tweet. We assume that people who disagree with us are either stupid or evil. But the hidden truth is that most people are operating from a nugget of insight that they have gathered from their own lived experience. We assume that the systems we built, like capitalism or the state, are static things that cannot evolve. The hidden reality is that these systems are strategies for reaching a goal, but we have forgotten what the goal actually is. We assume that we are free when we have choices in a market, but we fail to see the hidden costs of those choices, like the way social media business models are designed to keep us addicted and outraged. There is a hidden incentive in our culture to stay polarized because outrage generates more clicks and more profit than understanding does. We assume that truth is a flat thing that can be captured by one eye. But the hidden reality is that we need parallax vision, which means using both eyes to see depth. We assume that the middle ground is the best place to meet, but the hidden truth is that the middle is often just a weak version of both sides. This leads us to a structural pattern of gridlock in our modern society. We see a pattern where our institutions are designed to fight rather than to integrate. The structure of our political systems and our social media feeds encourages us to stay on the horizontal plane. We see a pattern where a thesis is met with an antithesis, but they never reach a synthesis. For example, when we talk about race, we see a structural pattern of blame. One side points to the system as the cause of all problems while the other side points to the individual. In the United States, the poverty rate for Black Americans is about 17% compared to 8% for white Americans. This gap is a structural reality. One side sees this as proof of systemic failure while the other sees it as a failure of individual effort. The pattern is to choose one cause and ignore the other. We see this same pattern in the debate over gender or healthcare. The structure of the argument is always the same. We take a complex human issue and we strip away all the nuance until it is a simple trade-off between two options. This structural pattern makes the issues harder to resolve because it rewards tribalism over truth. We end up with policies that only work for half the people half the time, and we wonder why we are so weary. We can reframe our entire perspective by realizing that reality is a hyperdimensional shape and we are only seeing one face of it at a time. Instead of trying to change hearts and minds, we can reframe our goal as expanding hearts and minds. Reframing the issue means moving from an either-or mindset to a both-and mindset. We can reframe the debate on race by seeing that both the system and the individual are relevant. We need systems that empower individuals so that eventually we might not need race-based policies at all. We can reframe the debate on abortion by moving away from who is right to asking under what circumstances should it be legal. When you look at the actual data, most people do not fit into the extreme boxes of all or nothing. A 2023 Pew Research study found that while most Americans believe abortion should be legal in most cases, they also support certain restrictions. Reframing allows us to find a policy that elevates the rights of the woman while also respecting the potential of life. This shift in perspective turns an argument into an art and a science of integration. It allows us to see that being partially right is not a failure but a starting point for a bigger view. Applying this to your daily life starts with the next argument you have with someone you disagree with. You can apply the rule of assuming that the other person has a nugget of insight that you are missing. Your job is not to beat them but to find that nugget and incorporate it into your own perspective. You can apply this by asking 3 specific questions. First, ask if there is an either or that can be flipped into a both and. Second, ask under what circumstances a certain view might be correct instead of just asking who is right. Third, ask if there are perverse incentives like social media algorithms that are making the issue harder to see clearly. You can apply this mindset at work by looking for the synthesis between a creative idea and a practical budget. In your family, you can apply this by seeing that your partner's frustration might come from a truth that you have been ignoring. This is not about both sidesism where we say all ideas are equally valuable. It is about recognizing that some people are more right than others, but no one is entirely right. By practicing this, you stop being a prisoner of your own tribe. You start to move toward higher ground where the world goes from flat to 3D. This makes you more effective, more empathetic, and more conscious. As we go deeper into this way of living, we realize that the challenges we face, like artificial intelligence or climate change, are too big for one perspective to solve. We need the decentralized intelligence of the market and the stabilizing force of the state working together. We need the passion of the activist and the caution of the conservative. We have to realize that our view will forever be inherently incomplete because we are human. But that is the beauty of the human experience. We are meant to be in a constant process of integration. We are meant to grow our capability to play the game of life by including more faces of the truth. When we stop falling for the false trade-offs of our digital world, we reclaim our freedom to be conscious and free. We stop being objects for the healthcare or social media industries to manipulate, and we start being individuals who can trust our own choices. The goal of society is not just to survive but to evolve beyond the systems that once served us. We are in the midst of a crisis but also a massive opportunity to expand what it means to be human. Integration is the path to a new great prosperity that does not cost us our souls or our planet. It is the work of a lifetime, but it starts with a single conversation where you decide to listen for the thing you do not yet know. If you were to walk to the other side of the room today and look through the eyes of the person you disagree with most, what is the one hidden truth they are seeing that your own perspective has been hiding from you all this time?